What's going on, my fellow YouTubers? Dragon Speed Shop here, bringing you another video today. We are going to talk about getting the hemi cuda body prepped and ready for some primer. Show you my little tips and tricks that I do on this to get it ready, and let's get into this. I'm excited for this. This is one of my favorite things, is getting the body ready for primer and getting it ready for paint. So first step I do, doesn't matter where you start on the car, but I take a brand new number 11 X-Acto blade and I run down all the door gaps, all the jams, everything like that. You're gonna do it probably 2 or 3 times. Don't press really hard. Just let the weight of the blade and kind of the weight of your hand do that. Usually I do all my straight lines first, run it kind of into the corners, real soft like. You can see I'm not pulling a lot out, and you don't need a lot. You only need to pull, maybe 2 mils to add a lot more depth to your panels when you go to paint and everything. I'll show you my little trick that I do with these lines before I actually spray paint on it. The other thing I do, knowing that I'm going to do bare metal foil, is I will run my blade around all the trim. I know I'm going to do bare metal on the back window, on the drip rails. I know that's all going to go bare metal, so really softly the same thing, just following those lines, taking your time. Don't get in a big hurry here, because you screw this up or you run across, pulling too hard and it runs a big gash across your body. You're gonna have to sand those out, maybe a little bit of body filler. So take your time here. The end result will be really nice. Next thing after that I usually do is sand mold lines out. I can see there's one running across the hood, across the deck lid. There's a little bit on the back. We'll get all that sanded. Make sure you don't sand like little things like that. Just be real careful with that. So I will get that done and get back to you. Alright guys, I'm back. So I've got that all sanded. I think you're gonna be able to see black line running around the doors, and like the blinker here and across. There's a reason why it's black, and I'll explain that to you. So I sand all the seam lines, everything out with 320 grit. After I do the 320 grit, I take some chalk in a bag and I tap the body across it and puts a little bit of black on it. Then I go back and I sand with 800 grit as my final sand that I do. And once all the black is gone off the white, then I know I don't have any deep sand scratches. You can see kind of now what I'm talking about when I scribe that line, into the doors. It adds a little bit of dimension. Even being white and black, you can kind of see that, it's running up the pillars. I can see my lines that I've scratched into the body where I know I'm going to do bare metal foil. So the other thing I usually do is go inside wheel wells, sand those, make sure there's nothing wrong with those. And then the very last thing I do after 800 grit, because I'm not sanding the whole body, just where I've sanded with the 320, I go back with the 800. I didn't touch the roof and stuff, so the last thing I do is, this is gray automotive Scotch Brite. It's really soft, and then just run across the whole body, and it's gonna pull. You can see the body's got some sheen to it. There we go. Since I've done that, I've still got some deep scratches there, that you can see there, right on top of the pillar. This has a little bit of that black powder in it, so I know where my sand scratches are. Before I spray primer, I'll make sure, I'll brush this a couple of times, run over it with a Scotch Brite. You're not going to hurt anything on the car. Everything's going to come out just fine. You don't have to worry about deep sand scratches with this. You don't have to worry about sanding off moldings, anything. You can run across the body, be just fine. Once I know the body is pretty pretty good, if I could speak today. We'll talk about fit and finish of other panels that go with the body. Come on, get on their hood. So we're gonna look at gaps right now. See if I can get this in here. Right here I've got a gap that I can put my razor blade in, and down here, nice tight gap, but that indents, you know, right where the hinge is. See if we can see that there. There's an indent, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Rather I sand that out or I tape down the hood to see, you know, line up this front line and see if I can actually sand. And to me, looking at both sides, it looks like I can sand on a nice flat block. I can sand all this extra material off to match that line on both sides. So once, you know, that gets done, fit and finish of the hood looks nice. Both gaps are the same. The front gap here looks really good. Then I'm happy with everything. You know, that's one thing to look for when you're prepping your model for paint and everything. Look at your door gaps, look at your hood gaps, you know, make sure those are perfect before you go into paint, because that's the last thing you want when you go to paint the car. Get all the clear on it, everything, it looks beautiful, and then you put it all together and you notice that your hood is sitting cockeyed or something. You got a big huge gap down here and a little gap there. That's one thing I know judges look for, is fit and finish. The other thing that, you know, we're going to work on is actually the front grille. I know looking at this that there's the fit and finish, you know, when it fits here is just absolutely atrocious, ugly. It doesn't fit at all. So that's one thing I'm going to have to address, is making sure all this is smooth together. So what I'll end up probably doing is taking a clamp and putting it as close as I can, you know, where it's going to line up, and then I can sit here and sand these two lines. I'll throw one up here on the grill and the fender. I can sit here and sand these two lines until they're perfectly smooth, rework the kind of the shape of the fender. The other gap that I'll look at is the actual gap running from where the grill and the front and the fenders all fit together. If I could get that in the camera. Address that, make sure the gaps are nice, or else they're, you know, touching. I know this other side has got a massive gap that yes, I shake. Everyone's wondering. A couple of my friends are like, are you always that shaky? And yes, I am. But it's got a big huge gap that I'll have to address there. So easy fixes. On this one, I'll probably, looking at it, I'll probably end up sanding the inside of the fender to make it match the grill. This side, it looks like I'll end up sanding the grill part, not a lot, to actually match the fender. So that's little things to look for. You know, once that's all nice and tight, you know, I can still see a gap running across here, so I'll probably take a flat block and run inside here. You know, run it across this top edge to make sure that's right. Little things like that, you know. The same thing with the rear valance. You know, kind of pre-assemble, make sure where it matches the body, that everything fits nice and tight. You know, these little tiny things that, you know, paying attention to, you know, will add more character, more realistic, there's the word, to your model. You know, pay attention to those things, especially, you know, because I want this to be a super box stock build, and it will be. But all the fit and the finish of all the panels, where they meet, where they go together, you know, are going to be perfect. There's not going to be any imperfections in the body that is going to be noticeable. So I want this to more look like it's a real car. These little tricks of, you know, taking your razor blade to the doors and the trim, you know, it's when you add bare metal foil. I'll show you my trick and why I ended up running my blade across there, because when you lay down your foil and you kind of press it into that gap, when you actually go to cut the foil, this is going to give you a guideline to where you need to cut and everything. So that's one trick there. You know, when we actually go to paint the car, that maybe in the next episode, I haven't decided if I'm going to show you the priming process, how I sand the primer. I know that's kind of boring, but it may be worth it, or I may just jump to painting, because it's going to be the same process. You know, I guess I could explain it. I haven't quite decided yet, but I will get there. So, but you know, take your time. You know, I'll say it again on probably every single one of my videos, especially when you're cutting these lines. Don't get in a big hurry, because you don't want to run your razor blade across this line and end up hitting the back, you know, where this line comes down, and you run a big gash all the way across your body. You know, just take your time there. But this will add a whole bunch of depth and dimension to your model car, along with the other tricks that I'll show you on this model that will make a huge difference. But we'll get in that in a later video. But for now, this is Dragon Speed Shop, and I'm out of here. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to me. There's some new links in the description to get these videos a little quicker. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks, and have a good one.